We are live. Let's go.
Hey,
Let's go. Guys, I want to welcome you to another Lenderblock podcast. Every single Saturday, you catch us live around 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Twitch and YouTube today for our Lenderblock podcast, where we go over news, global politics, other very interesting things going on in the world. And just tune in. Also, we're going to give you a lot of information about our Lenderblock ecosystem, our Lenderblock corporation, products, and why we exist as a company overall. So my name is Michael Lewis, your main host, as you guys know and recognize me by now. And today I'm joined by Antoine Thomas, our co-host. Yes, sir. Fellow electrical engineer of mine. Went to the Morgan State University. Got through a lot of projects together, a lot of tough classes together. A lot, bro. Yeah. A lot, man. And I want to keep tying into my Morgan people too, because that's a big demographic that I want y'all to feel a part of. I want y'all to feel a part of what we're doing. And I'm a Morgan grad. I'm an HBCU alum. So, for sure. Guys, Lenderblock Podcast, as you know, is sponsored by Lenderblock Corporation. We are a software development firm which focuses on creating FICO-FREE credit access via decentralized applications for the general public. So we have two applications through which we do this, the Blender platform and the partner platform. The Blender platform allows members to create credit lines, choosing their own interest rate and minimum monthly payment, and putting that credit line out on a platform called the Blender platform, in which other members who are acting as lenders can view these different credit lines and lend to them at will. So if you see a credit line that looks especially profitable or has an exceptional amount of lender interest or just has very credible borrower statistics, you can lend money to that credit line and receive the interest compounding payments that the bank would receive if that person were to open a credit line with, let's say, Bank of America or Chase or whoever else. So we're essentially creating a peer-to-peer economy here that is independent of large financial institutions. There's no over-leveraging of large financial institutions. We use collateral to protect against any borrower defaults, to protect our lenders. So if you're a lender and you lend a principal, that principal is always protected 100% by collateral. The credit limit is equal to the amount of collateral put down, and we give out collateral on behalf of our members, as well as allowing members to put down collateral on their own behalf as well. That is the Blender platform. Our second app is the partner platform. The partner platform allows members to create interest-free rotational funds sharing or saving groups. So we're both Jamaican here. You ever hear of something called partner?
Yeah.
The partner system is like essentially, let's say I create a partner, or we call it a partnership in the partner platform app. I create a partnership. I'm going to invite, let's say, 10 people. And all 10 of us are in the group, and I'm the creator, I'm the moderator, so I'm going to have the first turn to withdraw. What's going to happen is we're all going to contribute on a cyclical basis, a fixed amount, and then we're going to have rotational turns to withdraw some of that pool. So when you go around the full period of the cycle, or full cycle, then everyone would have had a turn to withdraw, as well as contributing 9 times. So let's actually run through it. Let's say the contribution amount is $100, and this is my turn to withdraw first. So everyone, excluding me, is in the group of 10 is going to contribute 100. So I'm going to have 900 in the pool to withdraw on my turn. Now, next month, when we do our next round of contributions, it's not my turn anymore. So I won't have the withdrawal turn. I'm going to be contributing $100 for someone else to have that turn. So the turn, or the owner of the turn to withdraw, goes around in a big circle. You can go around as many loops as you like. That's a partnership. That's a partner. In the partner platform.
And it's definitely something that's heavy in a few international communities and cultures. Yeah. I know a couple. I've heard it mentioned as something else in like the Nigerian community.
Yeah.
It's definitely something.
They call it susu.
I'm not sure the name, but I know it's definitely the idea of it is definitely something present in their culture,
for sure.
As well as, like you said, we're both Jamaican, so it's definitely something that even my aunt, my mom, my uncles, like grandparents, and their family friends, church friends, especially church friends, they definitely that's something they definitely bring up and definitely keep going, rotating every month, like you said. Everybody dips in the pot, puts back what you puts back in the pot next month. And it keeps going back and forth. So I hope it's something that can help benefit the community overall.
Yeah.
It shows that you're not being selfish. It shows that you're it shows how you can benefit financially. Because not many people, have money some months. So it's very hopeful for someone who's struggling. Someone you want to keep in touch with. It's good bonding activity.
For sure.
There's multiple benefits to it.
No, for sure. That's true. Like, like you said, it's culturally prominent across the world. So I've picked up some of the names that it's called in Latin America. It's called Tanda in Central America, as well as Juntas, even Cuchubales. It's very popular in Central America, but even in South America, it's popular as well by some of those same names. In Brazil, they call it panderos. So you have names like Cuchubales, Tanda, Juntas, uh, panderos, and even I heard of one reference of it being in East Asia by the name of Hui, Hui. So it shows like it's in more cultures than what I just mentioned. Like you just said, Antoine mentioned it being in Nigeria as well. I don't even know the name of what it's called in Nigeria, but this is a millennia, age-old practice of human beings. And what we've done is just brought it to the modern age with smart contracts, applications to enable better documentation, better accountability for all the participants, as well as just more validity added into the process. So that is what we're about at Lenderblock Corporation. That's our main operation, right? So what we exist for is the creation of these platforms which provide financial liberation for its members, right? And if you have poor FICO or low or poor debt to equity ratios or high student loan debt or other just disadvantaged scenarios, you are now able to participate in a peer-based platform where you can kind of still get access to those things which you are typically being barred from. So that's our entire purpose. We also have our apparel. See some of the things, Antoine. We have the polo shirt on, rocking a clean polo. Yeah,
Polo.
yeah,
Hey.
it's available on our website. Also the t-shirts. You see some of the t-shirts here. I have the t-shirt on. It's my favorite shirt. Kind of seeing you sweating through it, but I love the shirt, man. Like I'll replace it pretty soon. But you see, these are good shirts. They're quality shirts. I've had this shirt
Very
washed it
comfortable.
at least like a good 40, 50 times by now, and you see it's still looking clean, sharp. And I play soccer in this. I've jogged in this. I've literally sweated this shirt to being drenched. So
The shirt is versatile.
it's a very good
You can do it for
shirt.
anything.
No, seriously. You can check out our apparel online at www.lenderblock.io/store. That's lenderblock.io. You can see it somewhere in one of these tabs, so you see it in the stream. But lenderblock.io/store. You can go to our store, look at our beautiful merchandise designed by our chief merchandising officer, Naomi Royster, designed by her, all in house. All of our stuff is in house, sourced independently, and everything like that. So and sustainably as well. So it's really cool. Check that stuff out. And of course, y'all tapping in with us for the podcast every single Saturday. Don't stop doing that. Subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch. We want y'all to be commenting with us, subscribing on both platforms so you're getting all the different notices. I'm going to start doing more diverse uploads of showing some of the things that I'm doing on a daily basis and how the company is operating. So make sure you guys subscribe on both of those platforms. The last thing I want to cover, guys, we have a system on the Blender platform which allows members to receive increased credit limits with no money down. This is called the Verified Registry System. The Verified Registry System allows members to submit a Verified Registry form, which basically is asking them to submit information like their address, their social. These are different pieces or extra pieces of information that we're using to validate who you are. Then you're going to submit some verifying documents, which of course prove the information which is on the form being correct. So you're going to submit two proofs of residence. You're going to submit a proof of identity in the form of a license or passport, and proof of recurring income in the form of two subsequent pay stubs or checks coming from the entity. And when you're able to submit these things, once we approve of you, and you can go into your Blender platform app and go to the portal that said Become Blender, that says Becoming Blender Verified. Once you get into that portal, you can see the check marks and the things that you need to check off on and be approved for. Once you're approved and you have all green checks, then you can start requesting collateral in your credit line. You can go into your credit line and say, hey, I'd like this much collateral, and we are distributing collateral within a threshold. You can't just ask for $2 million and we give you $2 million of credit limit, but you go in there and you can request whatever you like, and we are issuing collateral within a fair threshold for everyone. So just go in and become Blender Verified. There are real benefits to that, and there are real people who have done it and have benefited. So join them. That is our last bit of Lenderblock news for right now. How you feel, bro?
I feel good.
Yeah.
Got up early this morning.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of push-ups.
No cap. We do every morning.
You gotta get up and be healthy and try to be as active as possible.
Mm-hmm. Cap. Did you watch the USA game? Watch the USA game, right?
The USA game against the one today, right?
Yeah.
The one against
Netherlands.
Against the Netherlands. Sadly, I didn't get to watch it, but I was watching live updates.
Yeah.
As much as I was able to see.
Yeah.
I knew it ended in 3-1 in the USA's defeat.
Yeah. They did well to even score a goal, though. You know, the Netherlands are like a powerhouse team going back in history. You think of names like Patrick Kluivert, Johan Cruyff, Van Persie.
Yeah.
Like, these are all big names. They're all Dutch. So even the fact that the USA has gone this far and fought so valiantly, I'm proud of them.
Yeah. Usually in more regional tournaments like Copa America or I think like the World Cup or something. Other tournaments they're usually in. They usually dominate, usually tear it up, right?
They do.
But in the World Cup on a bigger platform, honestly, I want to say I don't want to say U.S. to me as a team, they're a good team, but when you go up against other teams of different calibers, different intensity levels, different skill levels, and it's on a bigger platform, so more things are at stake.
Mm-hmm.
So people are going to be more confident, more determined to win.
Yeah.
U.S. as a country that doesn't really uphold soccer as much as other countries may lack in that intensity. I may be wrong in saying that. I don't know.
No, I think you have a valid point. The thing here is that the U.S. is in the CONCACAF, right? That's our local like regional division of how we qualify for the World Cup and play our games in the off years. And the thing is, the competition isn't that great. That's why Mexico doesn't do that well. That's why USA doesn't do that well. It's because like Canada, the USA, and Mexico are the largest or the most populated countries in the CONCACAF. Yeah. So that's really only the real competition for these large countries. The others in the CONCACAF are small Central American countries or even smaller Caribbean islands.
They don't usually make it to the World Cup.
Yeah, so you can't go from playing against small Caribbean islands and struggling nations who are stringing together a football team to then going and playing the Netherlands and saying, oh, this is a country with 40 years of football history, and now we're going to go and beat them. So
with legendary players.
Legendary history.
A
lot of people don't even know how legendary the Netherlands have been over.
Van Persie has one of the most famous goals of all time in the World
Cup.
Cup. That diving header.
But getting into the World Cup, I wanted to touch on some of the global politics and news, guys. We have some very serious things to get into. The Iranian government is going through a lot of turmoil and facing a lot of attention from the global community outside of just the soccer community, because there was an issue. Let's go back even a few podcasts ago. We were talking about how in Iran, university students were protesting not going to class, breaking down physical barriers, which were separating boys from girls in their classrooms. So that they're segregated in Iran in terms of universities, in terms of a lot of things. And the students are saying, look, we're tired of this. There's no need for this in 2022. How can we, move past this? And they just said, you know what, we're going to stop going to class. We're going to riot. We're going to break down some of the physical barriers in the school. And they did that. So that's kind of how this has been culminating over the past few months. Right now, Iran is having another issue where a man who was reported to have been rooting for the USA, just in kind of spiting Iran and the tyranny going on over there.
Yeah,
he was killed.
Yeah, I actually heard about that. Actually, while I was leaving work on the radio, they were saying a lot of the Iranian, I guess you could call them protesters, and some of the Iranian community. Yeah. During that game, they were not because you know how the regime is.
Yeah.
A lot of them are opposed to the current regime in Iran.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were in favor of the U.S. winning.
Yeah.
So in celebration of that, I even think the guy who passed away was one of the friends of one of the Iranian players. I think that's what I heard.
Shoot.
I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's horrible how destructive some regimes can be.
It really is. It really is. It's sad because this all started in 1979 around the 2-year conflict in Iran, the Islamic Revolution that happened there. And before then, women were allowed to go to schools, dress with Western styles, have capitalist jobs and things of that nature. But nowadays, you're seeing that just by that revolution in the late 70s, going into the 80s, all of that was just reverted. And now a lot of the people who are protesting are people whose mothers have told them, or older aunts, or even people who have seen their sisters living freely and then seeing that freedom taken away. So that contrasting what they know is right versus what the current standing is difficult, especially for some of the older people who enjoyed freedom in their younger years in
Yeah.
Iran. It's tough. Another issue, when the USA beat Iran, that was good for the USA. But the USA didn't want to post the true flag of Iran. So they posted a version of the flag that had the insignia in the center removed, and that insignia signifies the Islamic Revolution that happened in 1979.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah, they removed it because they didn't want to, I guess, accentuate the conflict or like show support of the regime or whatever. But that was a problem, and Iran is making a big deal of it. Apparently, that goes against the FIFA regulations for there to be like political acts uh, or motions or demonstrations shown by teams against other nations. So we have to see how that plays out for the U.S. So that they just lost today, there shouldn't be any consequences for it, but the loss is enough.
Yeah. Have them go back again and lose again.
Yeah, I don't know what they had planned, but it's crazy, man. The things that we take for granted here, but just by being American, other countries don't have those privileges.
Yeah.
Really crazy. Speaking of that, how blessed we are to be in this country and to have the freedoms that we do have. Indonesia, their parliament is expected to pass a new criminal code this month that will penalize sex outside of marriage with a punishment of up to 1 year in jail. Officials have confirmed to Reuters. Can you imagine that?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
I heard about that, and I was actually trying to look up a little bit more related to that.
Yeah.
Apparently Indonesia has like one of the highest Muslim populations, so that could be due to religious beliefs coming into law.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, it could be. I'm not sure, but something as strict as that, preventing people outside of marriage to have sex, something like that, is something. It seems like it would be like more of a religious thing.
Yeah, it's kind of tyrannical. It has to be religious, like Sharia law,
Yeah.
But it's kind of tyrannical, That is rough.
To put someone in prison for that, that's crazy.
In prison
I feel like that's an extreme. That's an extreme level.
Yeah.
That's an extreme level to go to persecute somebody like that. To put them in. How would you even find that out?
That's the thing, bro. Like, there's just lack of freedom, lack of privacy. For them to even be able to investigate something like that, are they saying, well, if you became pregnant as a woman, are you being held like? But how is the man being held accountable? Or, it just seems like if you are caught or even accused of having sex before marriage or outside of marriage, you could have been married and gotten a divorce. You're a grown man or woman. You're just being a human being, procreating.
Something like pregnancy is definitely is going to be evidence of them breaking that so-called new law that they're putting into place. Because you can't hide that 9-month felony.
Yes, you're gonna have some people getting married very quickly just to match up the timing.
And nosy neighbors too.
Yeah, nosy neighbors.
And a whole bunch of people being like, "Oh yeah, they're having sex outside. I hear them screaming."
I hear them screaming. That's funny. The legislative overhaul will also ban insulting the president or state institutions and expressing any views counter to Indonesia's state ideology. Also, cohabitation before marriage was also banned. So not only can you not have sex before marriage, but if you're dating a girl, you can't like say, come live with me. Also banned, and you can be sent to prison for that. So that is crazy.
I feel for I feel for that. That's hard.
Yeah,
it can be hard. If it's not an overall belief that's already accepted by the population as a whole, then it's definitely going to have some headbutting back and forth between the regime and the population. If it's something that's already not accepted by the population.
Yeah.
So having severe strict laws like that will eventually come back to bite them, and then more severe implications and more severe not consequences, like scenarios or something is gonna ensue. And, if you look over history, but like when the regime usually places extreme laws or consequences or persecutions on the community, protesting happens, and then once protesting happens, that's when the police comes out. And then when the police comes out, certain protesters die, like hundreds. Like what's it called, Tiananmen Square in China?
Tiananmen Square, yeah.
Yeah, back then, those university students. Yeah, no, a lot of them. Yeah, and then you see very bloody, dangerous, like crazy videos of what's happening, and then they try to outreach to other foreign nations for help, and then a whole bunch of other stuff ensues.
That's my question: is
so repeated cycle.
How are we going to get involved to help them in any way? Right? It's
the thing with U.S. loves to U.S. loves to help.
If there's something to be earned at the end of helping, right? If there's a payment for the help, like, okay, we're going to help you to destabilize your country so we can take control of your oil fields. I'm not sure what Indonesia has in terms of natural resources that would interest the U.S. or incite the U.S. to go over there and help, but it's pretty scary for them to be living in that situation. It's crazy, bro. Freedom is a right, but it's treated as a privilege. For many people, it's treated as a privilege based on where you live. So other scary stuff. Manitoba, Canada. There's an alleged serial killer going around killing women over a period of like 2 to 3 months earlier this year, and he was just caught. And he has a thing for this one actually like really made me upset. It's just like he's focusing. Yeah, he's focusing on indigenous women.
Yeah, I read that.
I mean, it's bad either way, but you see, indigenous women like the Inuit tribes that live in Canada all throughout.
Yeah.
We like racistly call Eskimos, but they're Inuits, and those are the people that he's targeting. The people who were there first and are disadvantaged, have less money, are living off in like their own communities. Living off the land. Those are the people. Those are the communities that he's going into and taking advantage of their lifestyle and committing those crimes. It's actually very scary.
It's horrible. I heard between March and May, I think.
Yeah.
Between the span of those 3 months.
Yeah.
He did those 4 murders. They caught him. I'm guessing he's awaiting trial.
Yeah, he's awaiting trial. The city of Canada, the police force, the city of Manitoba, Canada, the police force says, as a city, we must all grieve their loss and recognize that we have much more work to do to protect the lives of our Indigenous women and girls. This is Police Chief Gillingham, and the serial killer, who I don't even want to say, whose name I don't even want to say, just because what's the point of making the guy famous? But
he doesn't need any recognition.
Yeah.
Other than the fact.
But I'm gonna say his name though. Mr. Jeremy Skibicki is being held at the Milner Ridge Correctional Center in Manitoba. So he's awaiting trial, and I'm not sure what trial there is to be had there.
It's horrible considering what natives have previously gone through. Over the recent discovery of those 1,000 students. You read about that? No. So there's different schools, right? So there's a couple schools in Canada. I think a couple schools in America too. But I think the Vatican had governing control of those schools, and then throughout the 60s and 50s,
the archdiocese, like Catholic schools or whatever.
Yeah. So throughout the 50s and 60s, there were pretty much like reform schools to make those students renounce their ways, their indigenous ways, and a whole bunch of stuff.
Going right back to the conquistadors of Spain, going to Central America, the Mayans, and trying to convert them to Christians. Same thing.
Yeah. Propaganda, tricking the mindset, destroying already built and established cultures, and just turning them into your own, because what you believe is your own is perfect and beautiful, and a whole bunch of it's nonsense. It's evil. It's considering the fact that these were kids.
Yeah.
These were kids who their parent. Actually, I think some of them were even. How did it go? I read this a while ago though. So, I think some of the parents. I feel like they gave them an ultimatum. So I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but I feel like they gave them an ultimatum. So some of their kids had to go to some of those schools and stuff like that. Probably stay in the area. I'd be wrong about that, but regardless of that, what they did to those indigenous and native students is horrible. They found they found over hundreds of dead bodies throughout, scattered around different fields around those schools. The schools were abandoned like a year ago, or recently this year as well. they went back and then they found 100 bodies in different school areas, like, of the
It's
students.
crazy.
And it's just horrible. But some kids survived.
These bodies were found this year. This is
I
recent.
think yeah, this earlier this year, and I think some of last year.
Wow.
So hundreds of dead students,
Wow.
1,000 abused students. Some students survived. The I think both America and Canada are going to most definitely have to answer for what they did, because it's under their control. But it's in their nation, and the fact that you somehow let 100 to probably even 1,000 dead students go into your radar for over 60 years is just, it's sickening, it's disgusting, it's evil, and it's cruel. It's many things.
We just got a comment from the chat saying, "Wow, that's crazy." Yeah, it is crazy. Like it is very crazy.
It's,
that happened.
It's unbelievable.
You say thousands of kids were affected by this, but there's several schools which were under the diocese of the Catholic Church that were doing this. So, wow, that's really like 1600s conquering, colonization. Yep,
It's
that's
horrible.
That is very bad.
And then I was reading of one of the survivors. I don't remember his name. His name, I think it was John. But he's talking about how they would get abused. They were forced to like strip down their clothes. I think he said in one of his interviews, I think he said they poured like white powder on him and then forced him to shower, and then it's
just humiliating.
It's
horrible. Yeah, they're just breaking down the kid's spirit to try to build them up into whatever they have in their minds to build them into.
It makes you wonder what else is being flown under the radar.
Yeah, those people, like the most vulnerable people in our country or in the world in general, are usually people like refugees, migrants, people in situations that don't provide them much leverage to choose.
You don't have a voice.
You don't have a voice. And you're talking about indigenous people or indigenous children in schools. That's probably the most voiceless scenario that you can envision yourself in, right? So, yeah, it's very scary. It's important that we have these types of news just being shed light upon. That way we can kind of talk about it and make sure it's not being swept under the rug. But I'm not going to lie to you, man. I did not know that was happening in the U.S. and Canada. Those thousands of kids. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Scary as hell.
I feel like it was one of those things that was probably big for like 2 months, and in the next 5 months you probably don't hear about it. It's like a lot of newsworthy events that happen. That happened a lot actually with the news and all that. They pick and choose what they want to play.
Yeah. Other crazy stuff. We're getting a little less. We're going to be a little less morbid, right? A little less sad about it, but it's still not good.
Yeah.
In Great Britain, did you hear about the dance that was held at one of like the ballrooms, and one of the Queen Elizabeth's rest in peace, but the former Queen Elizabeth, her royal aide, and also this woman is Prince William's godmother. She resigned after having like one of the most racist conversations with one of the girls at the ball. So essentially, there was a ball where they were inviting different minority groups to come and just like speak and be a part of the ball, and just like bring them in, and just it's like a conference almost, but it's a ball.
Yeah.
And there was one representative from a group called, what was the group called? It's called Black. It's like a Black women's group that was brought in just to like voice their perspective and raise issues. And the Queen walked up to the representative and said, "Hey, what country in Africa are you from?" Because there were African people there. There were different national representatives there, but she came up to her and said, "Yeah, what country in Africa are you from?" And she said, "No, I'm English." And she said, "No, like we're in Africa." She just wouldn't let her walk past. And eventually she said, "Okay, so you're Nigerian." And the girl was like, "No, I was literally born here." But it was funny because of the royal aide, the lady who was having the racist conversation, she resigned. But it's kind of funny because people were saying like that was very racist, but she wasn't even trying to be racist. She's just
it's just a lack of knowledge,
Yeah.
ignorance, and it's pretty much it.
Yeah, there's a big cultural divide, bro. Like she just has no relatability to the demographics at the ball. So she's just, this lady who's been living in a palace for her whole life,
Probably
right?
nothing but she probably just sees nothing but predominantly white people.
Yeah, exactly.
Caucasian.
I guarantee that woman was not trying to be racist, bro. She's just she just didn't feel bashful about asking, hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And maybe that's a question. Is it wrong? What do you think about that?
A lot of people overall go through a lot of those situations in America, definitely, where people are like, oh, are you from like Togo, Congo, or something like that? Dominican, no, I was born here.
Yeah. But is that bad though? Because like as black people, we want to.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's bad. We shouldn't. The thing is, you shouldn't have to explain to someone every single time. You shouldn't have to be that person. They should be able to go out and do that knowledge themselves. They shouldn't have to wait for you to explain their ignorance. I shouldn't have to do that for you.
So if I ask you, where are you from, man? I hear an accent in your voice. And you tell me, no, I don't have an accent. And I say, no, you do, man. I hear you. Like, what's
See, the first statement. The first statement said, "Oh, I heard an accent in your voice. Where are you from, man?" And then after I explained to you, "Oh, I don't have an accent, man. I'm from here." And then you just keep going, assuming that I'm from.
Yeah. Like you know better than I do.
That I'm from a foreign country, a foreign land.
Yes.
Then at that point, your ignorance and your ignorance is showing.
Yeah.
Because I already told you my answer. You should have been able to process enough of what I just said and come up with a better statement, and not keep pushing back on what I already corrected you on.
It's a fact. It's a fact. Lacking sensitivity. Yeah, for sure.
Some people don't have any. Well, it's that, and I think some people also don't. It's ignorance, and people don't recognize social cues. If I'm telling you blatantly, yeah, I'm from PG County. I'm not from. And my parents are from Jamaica, but I hear people tell me, "Oh, you have an accent. Where are you from?"
Yeah, if I tell you I'm American, that's about it, buddy. Don't ask me anything else. Yeah, for real. That's about it. If I tell you, yeah, I'm an American, that's it. I don't ask you, why is your name Slowakowski? I don't ask you that, So I don't ask you where that name comes from. I don't parade you with questions. No, I let that slide. We expect the same courtesy. I think that's what you're kind of getting at, right?
Exactly. It's honestly, it's due to a lack of. It's due to a lack of exposure to other cultures.
Yeah.
Knowing that somebody else or other people of different backgrounds, different cultures live in your area. They're not just over in that one country where their ancestry was native to.
Seriously.
It's not this at this point in 2022.
Yeah.
The world is. You can find a black person everywhere.
Right.
So don't be surprised that you find a Switzerland person or a black Japanese person.
Over time, you'll see those barriers slowly erode away, right? Like eventually, you're going to see an amalgamation of everyone just being everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's just naturally going to, like, if you have salt, if I pour salt in the water, eventually a couple seconds it's going to be equilibrated. It's the same kind of thing, right? Like you're going to see a certain entropy form where there shouldn't be a concentration anywhere versus there shouldn't be a high concentration of any one demographic anywhere in the world over another. That's eventually going to happen just by physics itself, by entropy itself. That will happen. I think that's a good thing. That's what we're kind of getting towards right now. It's just like the decentralization or really I want to call it more so a unification of the human race. Because everything's so connected these days. Like the internet is there. You can take a plane and fly here. Even the poorest communities, and whether you're in the Caribbean or Africa or Asia, are being shown now on Instagram. So you can see exactly what people are doing there, how they're living, So you're seeing like this connection.
The mixing pot is well seasoned.
Yeah, mixing pot is well seasoned. Yes, sir.
There's diversity all over.
Yes, sir.
But then you have people who will fight against that diversity, regimes that will fight against that diversity no matter what.
Yeah.
No, there's always going to be someone who's going to be fighting against all the work that you're doing all the good work that you believe you're doing, and all the effort and energy and time and money spent into that good that you think you're putting into the world, there's always going to be someone doing the exact amount of work for the exact opposite reason.
It's a very sad thing to accept, but it's true. Yeah, it's very sad to think about, but it's true. Another thing we want to touch on, Mexico. Mexico is raising their minimum wage by 20% in 2023. That's a big deal. Imagine if the USA raised their minimum wage federally across the entire nation by a percentage like that, such a huge percentage like that. So it's going from what was the equivalent in US dollars of $9.03 to $10.82. So kind of showing you a little bit there.
There's some growth.
Yeah, some growth, and it's not that far off the U.S. Minimum wage either in most states. But
some states it's like 11.
Yeah. Some states it's like 11. I think it doesn't get much lower than that. I hope not. But it's pretty interesting there, just to think about that. Maybe something like that is due for the United States. I'm not sure. The European Union is fighting back against Russian oil control. So you guys know Russia, of course, is trying to stage both a geopolitical and a geofinancial war on the world because they, are of course invading Ukraine, and that's dying down. We believe we're not hearing that much about it anymore. But they also have a large monopoly, or close to a monopoly, on the world's oil reserves, just strictly based off of their size and the amount of oil within their borders, especially their maritime borders. Anyways, they are being fought against by the European Union, which has agreed to purchase oil for no more than $60 a barrel. This is the purpose of the unions themselves. When you think about the European Union or any union in general, it's so that way countries in that union can make decisions which are for their own benefaction, as opposed to making decisions that are controlled by a country far away with a lot of power, like the United States or China. So European Union, you have a lot of small nations like a Greece, or like almost got kicked out like a decade ago, but a Greece or a Germany, a very strong nation in the EU, or just all the nations, and they're all working together to make decisions that benefit them collectively. And when I saw this story about how they're making decisions like this to control the price at which they're buying oil and making an agreement, it made me think about the African efforts to make unions, right? There are some African unions, but the biggest ones that ever tried to form were always cut down, right? You don't really see these types of functioning unions in African states. Like, it makes you wonder, why isn't there West African Union, right? Why isn't there? For all those West African countries, which are pretty similar in terms of their resources, the types of resources that are typically found in their soil, the types of exports which they give, and the types of imports which they need. Why aren't they working together in a type of union like the European Union, right? That's something that's always been kind of silly to me. Even in like the Caribbean, we see things. This one called CARICOM, right? That does function as a union of sorts. It's not a very powerful union, respective to the EU, but it always makes me wonder, with all the resources and exporting power that, in real GDP generating power potential that West African nations have, why isn't there a union for them? It's very odd. Very, very odd. Amazon warehouse workers have been walking off the job. In many countries, up to 40 countries around the world have experienced this Black Friday walkout. Amazon warehouse workers have simply walked off the job as a response to ignored requests for higher wages and requests for better working conditions in the warehouses themselves. And some of these countries include the US, UK, India, Japan, Australia, South Africa, and like I said, that list is 40 countries long. The strike was organized under an organization called Make Amazon Pay, which calls upon the Amazon company to increase worker pay, like I said, and stop busting employees or warehouse employees' efforts to create unions. So they're not allowed to make unions. They're not allowed to, like I said, the union thing again. They're not allowed to unify. When you're not able to unify, you're not able to make your voice heard, because now you're a bunch of ants that aren't in a colony together, right? It's a single ant walking across the floor is nothing. But
a group of ants?
A colony of...
You ever seen that, Drew?
Yeah, right. They can do a lot of damage.
Those ants are... You may be small, but you can be powerful together.
Yeah. Just the fact that they're creating efforts to bust any formation of unions within Amazon employees of these warehouses, it's a big issue, and raises some concerns for a company as big as Amazon that makes money from commerce. You know, they're not manufacturing many items here; they're mostly procuring items from manufacturers and shipping them along. So that they have a high margin for their profit here. It's not as though they can't raise wages by even a small percentage, maybe not by a huge percentage, but a small percentage, right? What they try to do is garner in employee loyalty if they can by offering things like good benefits, which is it's pretty good. They'll offer things like maybe school reimbursement for some individuals. They offer some things, but when it comes to those who are just looking to work for the company a long time and be treated well,
There's not that many benefits.
there's not that many benefits for them. Yeah, so that's rough. That's it for the global news, those guys. We just want to go through the global news, give you a little bit of global perspective on what's happening. We touched a couple of things. For those of you who are just tuning in, things on Iran, things on Indonesia, Manitoba, Canada, Great Britain, Mexico, the EU, and of course, ending off with this Amazon issue. But there's a lot more going on in the world right now. So make sure you're staying tuned to everything. We're focusing on the U.S. news for right now. The Biden debt relief is now halted. So there's been a pause on payments, which has been extended through 2023. And this is just because a lot of state agencies have been finding, basically they've been finding the debt forgiveness to be unconstitutional.
I know for a fact a lot of them believe it's going to make the national debt even bigger than it already is.
Yeah, that is that's a reasonable.
It's reasonable.
That's a reasonable.
It made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made sense when they explained it.
Yeah. So here I have something from the Nebraska. Nebraska is the main state suing the federal government for this. Nebraska Attorney General Douglas J. Peterson told the justices that Biden's debt relief program is a quote-unquote unlawful attempt to erase over $400 billion of the $1.6 trillion in federal student loan debt and eliminate all remaining loan balances for roughly 20 million of 43 million borrowers. So he's basically saying, look, from the repayment of these loans, there are revenues that we can expect to acquire. Yes. So you're cutting out those future projected revenues, which we have been using to align our state books for the past maybe 20, 30, 50 years. And now you're simply saying that these people don't have to repay these funds. How does that affect our books, right? How does this affect our state ledgers? And the states don't want to incur that loss of profit coming in the future because it messes up some of their plans to grow. And this is the reasonable perspective.
That's a reasonable argument.
Yeah, it's a reasonable argument. Why are the states against student loan debt forgiveness? That's why. So the pause on payments has been extended to 2023. There's no stopping that, but it's looking kind of bleak for the debt forgiveness that Biden promised, unfortunately.
There's a lot of opposition against it.
A lot of opposition against it.
I know that he said it extended to 2023, right, further into the year.
Mm-hmm. So
there's probably going to be more talk about it during then.
He's gonna try.
They're probably going to turn it down overall.
Thing is, it will benefit so many people.
It will benefit so
just
many
being
people.
Logical about it, understanding that it's not necessarily the best thing for us right now, especially while we're in a really what we can call a recession by now. They're not. Yeah, pretty much we're in a recession. So when you're in a recession, you're trying to increase spending. You don't want to keep giving out free money and increasing inflation, which is the opposite of how you fix a recession, right? So by, like they said, increasing the amount of debt that the U.S. government has, by eliminating future profits to be gained from the repayments and interest compoundings to be gained from the repayments and all those things, you're almost setting us down a road of what looks to be, I don't want to call it depression because it's not a depression. They're not even calling it a true recession yet, but it's becoming a true recession that can't be denied. And the SEC has been saying, oh, it's not a recession, but we can pretty much feel that it's a recession. So
it's coming towards one.
Yeah, it's definitely coming towards one. Definitely. Zuckerberg's Meta is slipping. We covered this around like a month ago before we did our live interview stream.
Yeah.
But man, Zuckerberg's Meta is slipping. Investors are worried about the huge investment into their subsidiary Reality Labs, which is a VR, virtual reality, or AR, augmented reality subsidiary, just focused on building out the whole metaverse that Zuckerberg has been prophesizing about and just focusing his business around. So the whole Meta change, the name of Facebook changing from Facebook to Meta, the focus on VR, AR when Meta bought Oculus Rift or the Oculus company years back. I think that was in 2014. So they've been planning this for a long time. And even yesterday, I saw a video where Zuckerberg was being interviewed by, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, and it was like a Meta interview where he was using his avatar, and the interviewer was using his avatar. I mean, I get it, it's cool, but
to a degree,
it's not that cool.
It's not. Can I? So
yeah,
I've never been in the meta world.
Yeah.
But when it first came out and it was first introduced and advertised and marketed and explained what it is, like as a virtual world where you can do anything, everything, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
It first came off to me as, you know when you was like in elementary school.
Sims.
What's it called? There was Sims. There was like Maple something. Those game like Club Penguin. That's what it reminded me of. Those type of virtual worlds where the kids would log in online, use their parents' credit card, get a little bit free gifts for their avatar.
Yeah.
And that's what's it called? IMVU. I think IMVU is one of them.
Yeah.
There's a couple others, but that's all it reminded me of. Just that on a bigger platform.
Pretty much what it is. With more money funded into it.
You're pretty much. It reminded me of that, but as for like adults.
Yeah.
Or I guess because why would a kid be on that? Why would a kid be on?
I think he's aiming for kids too, bro. Like, I mean, look, I have some ideas of how the metaverse could be used, and I'm going to try to implement them myself through Lenderblock Corporation. You bet that. They're working on them now. Just can't mention them yet because they're too preliminary, but too infantile. But I'm telling you, the metaverse is cool. We're not knocking the metaverse in general. It's very cool to be able to use an avatar to do real world tasks without having to get off your video game. Makes life a little bit more interesting, right? You can do it in the real world or do it in the meta layer, right? It's cool. But I don't know if the way that Zuckerberg is going about it right now is the right way. Or I don't know if he's really accentuating or marketing the key aspects of it, which he should be, to get people excited. Like, I don't know if he's...
Do you know a couple key aspects that he should be advertising?
I think he should be doing a higher focus on, like, how can I use my avatar? He should be connecting more so with retailers, I think. Like, I should be able to go through, like, a version of DoorDash with my avatar and not have to leave my house because I'm on the game and I just want to be on the game. He should be having a lot of, like, interactive games on there so I could just be in the metaverse all day. Oh, I'm playing a game here, and now I want to order some pizza. And if the pizza comes to my house...
What's the difference between doing that and just going on your laptop and doing those things?
There's none. But it's just the fact that it's more fun because a kid might find it to be a more immersive process to have their controller in their hand and just like use their avatar to go to the local Pizza Hut and say, "Hey, bring me some pizza." And like it's a meta store. Yeah, it's like a video game. But you go to the store,
it's like Sims.
And but I think he should with that. Yeah, it's like Sims, but like actually that should be connected to a service that delivers the pizza to the real person's house in real life. So I think integrating those types of like...
Or do you think that can be detrimental in the long run?
Oh, hell yeah.
Considering there's been a lot of sci-fi movies like trying to implement certain worlds like that, where AI and virtual VR has like...
Yeah, for sure.
Like, powerful control. Do you think it's going to...
You want to? Hey, send us an email, all right? Send us an email. support@lenderblock.io. But no, I can see it being an issue with the cyber issue, lack of cyber control. There's also the concern that
I was thinking also more of like a health issue. If someone's just sitting on their butt all day and they, I don't have to get out. I could just go to my virtual world and do it.
Yeah, it's an issue, bro. But that's not what capitalism focuses on. Capitalism focuses on creating new innovations that people might want to consume and providing it to them and giving them the choice to buy it. So it's not... Capitalism isn't about, like, in my opinion, it's not about trying to be the doctor for people. It's providing candy so that they can buy it if they want, but also giving them apples. They can eat the apple if they want, right? But, like, just the free marketplace, that's a part of, like, what at least I think most people interpret to be freedom. Right? If you sit there on your couch all day, you don't leave the metaverse because, you don't want to leave, then that's more so on you than it is the creator of that application, who's simply just advancing the human experience through technology. You as a human being then have to, as long as it's within reason, right? You as a human being then need to use your human brain, your human deliberation to choose what you're going to do with that technology, right? It's like I have a phone and I could use my phone to, I don't know, like, I don't know. How can you use a phone poorly? But like, it's just a piece of technology. The phone can be used for a lot of things. Some things legal, some things illegal.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it doesn't make the phone evil, right? The phone should
Yeah.
still be available to buy, use freely.
I guess my question was then, do you see it as, like you said, the phone is not evil.
Right.
Is what we do with it.
Yeah.
And how much of our time we let it control.
For sure. Yeah.
But when you create certain platforms, you have to already think about those risks.
Yeah.
That you're going to be setting onto the world.
Yeah. Now, there's a little bit of a difference. I think there's like a line. It's not usually drawn equally for every organization. Like,
Yeah,
for
definitely,
example,
definitely not.
like Lenderblock Corporation, I draw our line of responsibility here. I will make sure that any lender on our platform, especially the lender platform, any lender on our platform is protected 100% for their principal lent to a credit line. This is because I want to make sure that you feel comfortable lending to anyone, but you want to lend to those who you have the highest, the intuition of or highest potential for. Who you want to lend to those who have the highest potential to pay you back. Who give you a piece of intuition to say, okay, based upon their credibility statistics, their repayment patterns, the amount of other lender engagement, I'm going to make sure that I lend to this person because I think they'll pay me back. These people are making money from them. Let me try as well. It's like a stock, right? You're putting money into the stock. But on the flip side, I don't think you should be able to lose everything that you put in. You should at least be able to get back the principal. Maybe you bought a stock for, basically what I'm saying is if you bought a stock, my concept for that is I bought a stock at $230. I should never lose that $230. I might earn more, but the Blender platform is saying, okay, if you invest $230 into a credit line, that's there for you. You'll never go below that. You'll never lose that. You may earn more from profit because that was a good lender, that was a good borrower to choose, right? You chose a good borrower, you chose a good stock. But I think that's where like our ethical piece is coming in. Like, I will protect our users, you all. I will protect everyone. I will protect you on our platform for your principles. But on the flip side, if you go lending to people who have two borrowers and it shows them their credibility that they've missed 5 payments, then I don't think you should expect to earn an ROI from that or a return on your investment. So it's like a little bit of human cognition has to play a role in all these technologies, right? You're not allowing the organizations to just think for you. You have to think of it yourself. But there is a role and responsibility that every creator of technology has for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a line. There's a line. Every organization has to draw their line somewhere, and the public has to then deem whether or not that line is drawn in the right location. Right? Is it fair or is it not? As far as Zuckerberg's Meta goes, I can't even judge it yet because he hasn't put enough of it out yet for us to use.
Yeah.
But it's not looking enticing quite yet. And the things that we were talking about, like the things that we were suggesting that he start marketing to the public, such as ways that I can use my metaverse avatar to do all things and not have to leave the game, which would be the only real true implementation of what the metaverse is supposed to mean. He will have to have some ethical backups there to make sure people aren't ruining their lives on there. That's true, but that people aren't being exposed to environments that are unsafe in that metaverse, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not looking good. Right
Yeah,
now.
it's definitely not looking hot right now.
Yeah.
No cap. It's really.
We'll see what he does in the future.
Yeah, we'll see. It's looking a bit odd, but we'll see. He's probably going to have some competitors come and take his spot if he's not too quick to advance meta within.
I can see that.
Yeah,
VR has been around for a while.
Mm-hmm. You think about companies like Sony, Microsoft. Why can't they come out with their own versions of their own metaverse with their own hardware, right?
Exactly.
With their own. So if he doesn't hurry it up, I don't know if it's going to be too good of a 2023 for Meta. In San Francisco, speaking about technology, San Francisco is now allowing robotic police to enforce civilian laws. So they're allowing the robots to use physical force to enforce people or to enforce laws, whether that's moving someone from a sidewalk who's sleeping, whether it's a homeless person, or whether it's detecting someone littering and holding them accountable, or whatever they plan to use it for. San Francisco is now allowing robots to be police and use force.
Is crazy.
That is wild.
You ever seen iRobot with Will Smith?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That bro, let's just let that sit down and simmer in our brains for a little bit. You could be on the street and a robot come up to you, grab you with a robot arm, and just chain itself to you. Waiting for police. Waiting for police. Can you let go of me? Waiting for human police. Like, yo, that's what's gonna happen.
Like, well, imagine if it's somebody whose car just broke down. They just sitting on the side, waiting for the Uber.
Right. Bro,
I didn't do anything. My car broke down.
Bro, please. Waiting for police.
Oh my god.
Cannot leave. Yo, they don't do that. Like,
And then that is insane.
Bro.
Considering in real life and in fantasy, in movies and shows and games, there's been several. There's been a lot of evidence of technology not living up to the precedent it's supposed to be, right? You know, where it's malfunction, where it's taken a mind of its own, where it's slowly destroyed humanity, or where it killed somebody. For example, did you hear about the rogue Tesla? I don't remember.
The rogue Tesla?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
I
it was
remember
in
that
China.
years ago.
No, recently.
Oh, this was not during the testing years ago?
There was that one, and there was a rogue Tesla. I don't know where the location was.
Yeah.
But there was so the guy pulled over, right, I guess to park. You know how it can park itself and stuff?
Yeah, that's.
So I'm assuming that's what the feature that he used. And then what happened was it I guess it malfunctioned or something happened in the processing. It went back on the road. So this is the road. This is the road. This is, I guess, yes.
They can see people like this.
All right, so this is the road, and this is him like pulled over, right? And then the AI took over, the Tesla took over itself, and then it ran back on the road, right? So he's still in the car. He's trying to press on the brake. The car is accelerating. 50, 60, 80, 100. It's accelerating. That thing is zooming. And he's trying to step on the brake.
Yeah.
There's live videos because of traffic feed. He's trying to step on the brake. The brake is hard.
Yeah.
You can't step on it. It's not stopping. So sadly enough, he's down for the ride involuntarily. The video showed it first hitting a cart on the road or something like that. People swerving out the way. People crossing the street and hitting a few people, and then it eventually swerving off the road and crashing into something else. I don't remember. Don't quote me on this. Like I said, I think someone did pass away. I think someone did die, but I know there was definitely
the driver lived.
I believe the driver lived. I can look it up real quick to get more,
Yeah.
Let me look it up real quick.
For real. That's interesting. Yeah, definitely.
But the point of me saying that was there's been evidence of technology,
of course,
breaking down, dragging up.
Yeah, AI is not perfect, right?
It's
just like your brain, just like your brain is not perfect.
And to have it police people is dangerous, considering the humans that we have policing people aren't even doing their job correctly. So how do you expect something that you build?
You're training the algorithm on, I get it, you're training the algorithm, and the cool thing about Teslas is that they share a central database for all of their learning. So if one Tesla encounters a very odd-looking traffic cone, right?
Yeah.
It's going to send that image of that traffic cone back to the main database, where that'll be used to say, maybe a human being might help and decide, okay, that is a traffic cone. I confirm that is a traffic cone. And then from there, the AI says, okay, I'm taking the pixelation of what this traffic cone looks like and storing that grid of information of that 2D image of what the traffic cone looks like in my database. And now when I see another traffic cone, that helps me to determine, does this look like the traffic cones that I've seen in the past via neural networks and other things like that. And I get that, right? But that takes time and learning. In the same way a human being, like you might if I show you this apple, right?
Yeah.
This is my apple, and you've seen a million apples in your life. This could be made of plastic. You don't know that. Like, you could bite into this and you could still make a mistake, right? Because there's always nuance in the real world. So although looks like an apple, look, there's a bite mark in it. This could be one of those plastic apples you see at your grandma's house, and you go bite into it. It's not an apple. So
a viewer said, "How do y'all feel about Tesla testing cars on public roads?"
They should. That way they can make sure it works, right?
But if there's been history of it breaking down, there's a public road really where you want to go. Considering there's also a lot of other open areas and not abandoned, but like warehouse areas and stuff like that, you could have those type of tests. You can probably even do it on a track.
Yeah, but the only way you know if something like
it's gonna work is if it's in a real life situation.
Yeah, you gotta put it on the road. You know, if you can't trust it to be on the road, then damn sure don't sell it to people. You know, so putting it on the road for testing, if it's not safe to put on the road, then for testing, then damn sure shouldn't be sold to people to buy. So I think they have to put it on the road to test it. Also, I think these are just growing pains. Also, like we're both electrical engineers, so we're not against technology. We're both in support of technological advances. But I guess my perspective is more just like, well, in line with what I just said. My perspective is more so just like these are growing pains, right? When you get taller, your knees start hurting, right? You start getting stronger, your muscles are sore. It's just like a part of the growing pains. And I know that the pains can be equal to fatalities and lost lives. That's not okay, nor do I want to ever belittle that or make that seem like a lesser deal than it is. It's a big deal. But we have to keep developing as humans. Like, we have to. We can't just not build automatic cars or we can't not advance because there are risks associated, right? We never made a spaceship if that were the case. We never would have made a car or a plane or any of those things if that were the logic that we're using to make our decisions. So,
because in everything, there's going to be a risk.
Yeah, development.
You as a business owner or person in general, there's going to be someone. You have to figure out. How do I say? You have to figure out what risks, what out of those risks that you set up that you saw that you perceived. You have to figure out of those risks, which ones are possibly manageable for me in the future. Which ones do I want to? Okay, that's pretty severe, but I can live with that.
Yeah, it's actually a process that is done with every
risk acceptance, mitigation, factoring in. Several things. A lot of things go into making. It's like an everyday decision you make. There's a risk in everything.
You have a hazard.
Yeah.
Start with a hazard. That hazard can be realized and turned into a threat. And what needs to happen for that hazard to turn into a threat?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is the action that will cause that to happen. How likely is that action to occur? Right?
How likely are you as a person able to, not as a person, how likely are you able to mitigate that?
Right.
Do you have the resources available?
Yeah. And if not, then maybe that plan should not be followed through because you don't have the means to mitigate the risk associated, right?
Are you willing to take on the repercussions or consequences of that situation that you presented?
Is Elon Musk going to be paying out checks to people's families who are affected negatively by it, right? Exactly. I would assume so, though, but yeah, there's nothing much you can do about a lost life. So
I wasn't able to get onto the Wi-Fi. So my service is pretty bad. But yeah, that's definitely something.
No, we'll tap back into it next week.
We can definitely continue on it.
Yeah,
talk about technology.
Oh, but the San Francisco thing. The reason why we even start talking about all this automation and AI and robots and stuff is because San Francisco is using these robots as police, and they're authorized now to use force. The issue that I see is, I think when I first heard of this story, what came to mind is that San Francisco is trying to automate the control of the homeless problem. So in LA and San Francisco,
they're the highest homeless population.
Yeah, I lived in LA for a year, and I was friends with homeless people because I pass them every day. They live on my block, right? So you're gonna be cool with them. Hey, how's it going? You know, like that's how common it is. Every corner in like actual LA has homeless people on it. Like every single corner. Like every single. Like I'm not joking. Like,
He's not. My sister lives over there.
For real?
When I was over in I was visiting her for about like a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that it's not a
It's
joke.
not a joke.
There's a homeless person on every corner.
Every single corner has home. Like every.
And it's
corner.
It's sad. It's crazy.
Yes.
It makes you think about the mental health situation and the war on drug situation in America.
Yep.
And what
America's paying for what it did to its own. That's one of the worst places that suffered from the war on drugs. LA and New York.
And what's being
Baltimore too.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what's the opium thing that's going on, like fentanyl, heroin, all that.
Yeah, a lot of narcotics.
It makes you wonder: are certain things really being put in place? Are they strong enough? Are there strong enough? How do I say it? I guess laws and rules set in place to benefit these people, or just to push them further down the well where you forget about them? Which one?
Right. We just got a comment. It said, "Force. Does that force include deadly force? No, not deadly force. It can't fire tasers or anything even lethal.
It's probably more so of a just to clean up the camp that they're in.
Like they might just have like a robot that weighs about 100 pounds rolling around flat areas, and it's 100 pounds. So if it's rolling, you're not going to be able to.
So it's probably like 2 feet tall.
Yeah, 2 foot tall, 100-pound robot, heavy as hell. So if it's rolling towards you, got to get out the way. It's going to fucking crush you. It's going to hurt. It's just probably just going to roll around and say, "Hey, move, move, move. Cannot be here." That's what I think it's going to do.
Yeah, granted, we don't know for a fact
I don't
what they're
know.
building.
Yeah,
but
this is new news. This is very new news.
It came out probably in the last like week or two.
Yep.
But yeah, it's sad.
Scary.
I try my best
It's
to
like
help.
Futurama without the intergalactic part.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a funny show.
Yeah.
But this is not a funny situation.
Yeah.
This is gonna lead to a lot, actually.
Dehumanizing.
It's very dehumanizing. It's
You thought the human police officer looking at you was a cold and scary feeling. Imagine a robot.
a robot.
A robot.
Something that has
Chasing after you.
something with no morals. It can't make up it can't technically it can make up its own mind, but only based on what you already installed in its code.
Yeah, there's no,
and what it's currently learning, but in a slower way.
Let me tell you, AI doesn't have any protocols yet for dopamine to be released, right? Or oxytocin, or none of those neurotransmitters that you're going through your brain that can make you feel happy or compassionate,
that helps
loving,
decision making.
Help your decision making. That's what I'm trying to get at. That's not there. So imagine you have a person with none of those neurotransmitters, nothing to like kind of curve their brain processing in a certain way, just like literal logic. Like, are you doing this? Do this.
It's not as many options as we have as a human being to further, make a decision.
As a human being, I can release neurotransmitters that can allow me to think more so in this way than I would in that way, or more so use this part of my brain more so as correlates with X, Y, and Z. Versus that's not developed even nearly yet.
Granted, there is some very, very strong AI and technology out there that can make decisions like quick, like GPS.
Right.
Like when it tells you, "Oh, go this way. Oh, there's an accident. Go this way instead. Reroute." Da 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 da. Like certain things are very fast in terms of processing. Yeah. But one big thing that robots and AI and all that other stuff lack is that emotional concept. The emotional stability and to make more sincere and compassionate decisions.
Well said.
Their decisions are based on what's installed in their code or what they've initially been programmed to do.
Yep.
They can't go against that.
Yeah.
They probably can to a degree, but not to a degree as a human being can.
Yeah. Sad, bro. It's very sad. Not even necessarily sad, because we don't want to be like preemptively negative about it, but it's worrying. Something to be aware of.
Yeah.
Another note, like what?
I was gonna say there's good and bad to everything, but you gotta look at both. You gotta look at both sides of the fence to further understand it as a whole.
Not for real.
So we're not, like you said, we're not trying to be negative.
Yeah.
We're just trying to be realistic.
Yeah. Okay. Remember the Texas shooting in Uvalde, Texas, elementary school, May 24th, earlier this year. This is forcing talks of gun control in the nation's most gun-loving state, Texas. Very good conversation for us to kind of briefly touch on. We don't want to get into gun control too much right now, but we were talking a little bit earlier about, the responsibility of creators of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about, okay, cell phones can be used for a lot of illegal things, good things as well. Very useful tool. I'd rather have a cell phone than not have one, right? It's net positive for humanity, we would believe. However, what about guns, right? This same conversation, I don't want to do too deep of a gun dive here because I have a firearm, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite here. I have a licensed firearm in the state of Maryland. I also have an HQL, so I'm not going to act as though I'm anti-gun. But the thing is, how do you put the onus of, the ethics behind using a gun or using a piece of technology which has the potential to do harm? How do you put that ethical onus on the manufacturer as well as on the consumer, right? This is going to be a human discussion for a long time. We're going to be trying to figure this out.
Guns have been in this world for hundreds of years.
Oh yeah, literally, man, like literal hundreds of years, and it's just like even beyond guns, like it's just a general technology because guns are technology, right? Firearms are technology.
Mm-hmm.
How do we balance the line between creators managing the ethics behind their own technology and the consumers managing their own use of that technology? And how far is the line drawn to either end of the spectrum, right? That's really a big part of it. Getting past that, though, New York. This is a very interesting one I want to get into a little bit. So there are a lot of dispensaries in New York. If you've been up there, you've seen that. I'm talking about marijuana dispensaries, cannabis dispensaries, and a lot of them are very shady looking. And you've seen a lot of the little bodegas. If you've been to Manhattan and just walked around Manhattan, you've definitely seen the trucks. They look like ice cream trucks. You see them in DC too, but they're serving cannabis. And finally, we're starting to get into some of the nitty-gritty of cannabis regulation, or the lack thereof, for some of these little bodegas, which the legitimacy is really to be questioned. We really don't even know if they're legitimate or if they're safe. Here's a story. New York dispensaries are said to be selling cannabis contaminated with E. coli, salmonella, and physically toxic chemicals such as lead, as well as up to 2 to 3 times the THC level stated on the packaging. So essentially, what I'm saying is, the same way you can have like greens or vegetables with E. coli on it.
Yeah.
Like spinach, you have to wash that. You can't just eat it without washing it.
It's becoming the same situation in cannabis. But
Yeah.
Instead of you don't have the benefit of washing it. Is that where you're going to get at?
Well, yeah, because you're not going to cook it, but people aren't even thinking that it's an issue, as well as actual lead being in the flour itself.
Yeah.
And it's just there's no regulation for the process. So when you look at this, you would expect for cannabis to be regulated by the FDA, and for each growing operation to be giving, let's say, soil samples to be tested, or having representatives come out to validate where the things are being grown, or there should be literal like auditors being sent out by federal agencies to get this stuff like fully approved of for the public. The problem is that cannabis is still federally illegal. So there's no federal agencies in place to make sure that it's safe. And that's the problem. Like, I don't know, I literally don't understand how to this modern day cannabis is federally illegal, but legal in almost half the states in the country.
Yeah.
For like either medicinal or recreational and medicinal usage.
The DMV just passed.
Yeah, bro. It's weird. It's weird. But because you don't have the federal backing of like okay, the federal government providing its own agency, right, to make sure this is being safely sold to the public. It shows you that there's a lacking concern of the government when it comes to cannabis, and it makes you feel a little bit concerned about purchasing cannabis from even a dispensary um, that's licensed, because there isn't that federal backing there. So everything is being controlled by states. And if you know anything about state governments, they're not all created equal. They're not all created equal. Some states are very proficient, others move around half the speed of a turtle. So to get anything done and move with very little efficiency. It just depends on where you live. It gets even worse if you're talking about municipalities like cities. So the fact that the federal government doesn't have this central infrastructure is also causing other problems beyond just the health of the people, but it's also forcing the cannabis operations to find underground or um, illegitimate means of funding, because they're not federally approved, and therefore banks simply don't lend them funds or allow them to conduct business in their banks.
Therefore, what he's saying is the resource that they could have is limited. The resources that they currently do have is limited compared to what they could have if it was more federally regulated.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's something that's been popping up now called the Safe Banking Reform. It stands for the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking, so SAFE. And it prohibits federal regulators from taking adverse actions against financial institutions which are providing banking services to legal cannabis-related businesses and ancillary service providers, including but not limited to landlords, accountants, and law firms. So basically, what we're saying is accountants, law firms, landlords, and banks, financial institutions are typically just telling cannabis entities, no, we can't do business with you. We can't do business with you. So what does that do? It encourages the cannabis entities to do like underground means of processing their business, because you're not allowing them to go through the main legal vectors of receiving these essential services, which is further worsening the problem of underground cannabis coming into legitimate looking dispensaries.
Exactly.
So it's just making the problem worse.
Or if it's not underground, then it is a legitimate way to gain money, but it's just not as fast as it would if it was like a alternative solution.
It basically means you need to get all your funding via privatization. So if you don't, basically, it's funded via privatization, private money, and there's not much looking into how that money was acquired. So it's just a big problem that's stemming into just the underground nature, the lack of federal legalization of cannabis-related entities to operate, and just relying on state legislation to allow them to act is not good, because it's leaving loopholes within our American system for a very sensitive substance, which should be very closely regulated to prevent against widespread health issues, like we're saying, the spreading of E. coli, salmonella, and lead poisoning from individuals consuming these products. Last thing I want to touch on is when you see these local bodegas and things like that, just be aware of them, all right? In certain areas, like in, let's say, Inglewood, Los Angeles, California, dispensaries aren't popular. That's like, quote unquote, the hood, right? It's not popular. The problem is that at these little dispensaries, not really a problem, but the nuance is that those dispensaries in the hood, they don't operate the way that the stores do. It's like they have a grow operation on the side, and you're seeing where they're growing and stuff. They're bringing it in, they're packaging it, it's all labeled and taxed, everything. A lot of the hood dispensaries, or like the ones you see like in New York, for example, they're operating the same way. They're operating as churches. Churches receiving donations or tithes and giving out the cannabis for free. So if I go in and hand over a bill, what they're doing is saying, "This is, you gave us a donation, okay, and now we're giving you this for free." And they signed up, they registered their business as a 501c3. It's like a nonprofit, it's a church. And that's how they're able to sell marijuana tax-free without it being regulated. Because they're not selling it. They're giving it out for free and receiving donations. So you see how all those like nomenclatures and very specific like organizations of government, of businesses, allow people to circumvent government regulations and kind of be crafty and nifty, and the only person that ends up suffering in the end is the consumer when that happens. That's a very big story because it's dangerous.
That's an interesting way of going about giving the public what they want.
It's weird. It's weird because you think it'd be illegal, but it's not.
You have a comment on the issue of homelessness. The rise of homelessness is a source of major tension around the country, including in New York City, which has a larger homeless population than any other city in the U.S. This week, Mayor Eric Adams announced a new policy to try to curb the trend. But as William Brangham reports, it has also drawn criticism.
Yeah, it's tough, right? And let's get back into that. How do you tell a homeless person you can't be here, you can't live here? It's tough. You want to be human. You want to be considerate, show empathy for the situation.
Yeah.
But states do and cities do have to deal with the fact that people can't just live outside.
Yeah.
They can't like live in subways.
Because then overcrowding becomes an issue,
Yeah.
and then efficiency goes down, and productivity goes down.
The problem.
Yeah, sadly, yeah, but
That's a tough problem to solve, bro. The reason why it's so tough is because of of course, I love capitalism. I'm not a socialist, nor do I think socialism is a good idea. I think it eliminates the desire for competition among a species which has reached this current status in the world via nothing more than competition. Therefore, I find it to be a dangerous way to live. Although I do appreciate the fact that the U.S. has socialist measures to keep us all safe. You can kind of tie into some of that from our previous interview with Carter Flake a couple weeks back too. All these interviews that we're doing, all the old podcasts, they all string along. Those of you who've been tying in with us, you can tapped in with us. You can kind of see how everything has been tied in and made consistent. We have general themes on this show, but yeah, I like the socialist measures like WIC, food stamps, things like Joe Biden's debt forgiveness. These things are good for people in general. Things like Section 8 housing. These are things to make sure you don't just fall over the wayside. But in places like New York, when you have that many people in such a small area, these problems are accentuated. So the problem in New York, I can see it having the potential to become just as bad as the problem in San Francisco. The only reason why the San Francisco problem is so bad with homelessness is because it's warm in San Francisco. Well, it's cold sometimes, but in LA especially, it's warm in LA.
You don't have as severe weather as you do in New York.
Yeah, you can be homeless in LA and actually be just
like Buffalo, New York is
fine.
Cold as. I don't even want it's cold as hell because it's contradictory, but like it's cold. It's cold.
Yeah, I've been up there.
It's insane.
Yeah,
New York compared the weather compared New York and LA differs tremendously.
Yeah, but it's a problem, bro.
It's crazy, and I hope one day
complex issue for sure.
I hope one day in the future we could find a better way to attack these situations, especially homelessness. There's homelessness and housing is just it's an insane situation. Not just in America, overall, all over the world. It's sad.
Yeah,
some people can't afford just the basic necessities to live.
Basic of going into a house, a warm house, having warm
house,
water to go bathe with.
Some people sleep on the concrete, the floor. They pee where they sleep. Yeah. They eat where they pee and sleep. It's sad. And it makes you wonder what were the causes of their situation, the current situations.
Bro, there was a homeless lady who was on my block at my apartment in LA. Never knew her name. I just said I do all the time. But one time I talked to her and she was telling me that she was gone for a while. And I thought something happened to her. So when I saw her back again, I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, yeah, I was in Ohio for my daughter's graduation. Bro, I was sitting there. I didn't show it, but in my head I was like,
you were in shock?
I was in shock. Because it reminded me that these are regular, everyday people with children, families, husbands, like wives. Like, she literally went to her daughter's graduation in Ohio, probably got her best fit together, and just went out and came right back to her corner. That really blew my mind, bro. And I didn't show it. I don't believe I did, but
and it's crazy.
I was just so like taken aback by that. Like, damn, like, these are regular people who live lives and just had a bit of unluckiness with 1-2 bad decisions, and life can be like that. That's crazy.
It's amazing. Not amazing, but I guess astonishing is the right word to use. It's more so astonishing to know that, like you said, these are everyday people. You wouldn't know that the person you work with is probably homeless. or whether they would have to show you and express it, but
Stuff
a
wouldn't know.
lot of you definitely wouldn't know, and it's insane.
Sure.
What set them up that way? What's keeping them there? It makes you wonder, and I like the fact that you went out of your way to set up a conversation with her every day, or even give her the slightest respect. A lot of people just walk over homeless people or people with mental health situations and just go past them and just assume just the most extreme thought, assuming that they're dirty and they're disgusting and they're drug addicts and a whole bunch of. That's not the case for everybody. Some people were just kicked out of their house due to a bad landlord or a whole bunch of situations.
When you're living in a place like LA, let's say you were born in LA, right? You just lost your job. What the hell are you going to do? Rent in LA is median, or I say average, around like $1,500 in LA. Median is higher than that. So when you're looking at average rent of $1,500 and you just lost your job, and a gallon of milk is $7, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna be homeless. You lose your job, and you grew up in LA. You lost your job. Worse, you don't have any family that can support you. You are gonna be homeless.
It's even worse if you have no.
It's sad. It can happen to anyone, bro. Don't judge them. And like in LA,
it can happen to you in a blink of an eye.
It can happen right
I could
here.
be homeless next
week. We're
week.
in Baltimore, Maryland. It can happen right here. So, but it's worse. It's highlighted and made a worse issue in places like New York, where an average citizen who's done nothing wrong but simply hasn't, performed to the level that the city requires to stay alive,
or given the right resources,
becomes homeless.
Because think about, let's say a reformed convict who just got out of prison. They don't have any more family left, and now they went from one prison to the outside world, which is now another prison because now they're homeless.
Yeah.
You never know what type of situation anybody's dealing with. Yeah. So whenever you approach somebody with respect, decency, and an open mind, understand that there are multiple perspectives that can be placed on the situation.
Yeah.
And understand that your way is not the only way, that there are other ways to go about things. There are, granted, that doesn't mean to be a pushover. That doesn't mean to let somebody just tell you lies, and you just don't be naive. Just be willing to show that decency and respect. Because for all you know, if it was to flip around, they would show you that respect that you just didn't give them.
Right.
And that's a lot of things I feel like people in general, like the society in general, lack. A lot of kids, a lot of young adults don't have that respect, even for themselves. They don't have that respect at all. So to show that same respect they were never given as a child, as a young adult, adolescent, or even that respect for themselves, is going to be difficult for them to dish it out if they've never seen it before. But regardless of the fact, regardless of your past or whatever, try your best to show somebody respect today, tomorrow, and all the time. Because what he did was good. And I wish everybody would go out of their way.
Bro, it's not even going out my way. You see someone in a tent in front of your building. Yeah. You're just going to look at them in their face and walk past them every day. Eventually, some people would.
A lot of people do.
But it's just just remember that everyone's a human. Like, we're humans, right? We're sticking together, we're humans. Whether you're black, white, whatever.
Purple, green.
You're purple, green. You're a human. We're a human. And we're a couple genomes from looking exactly the same.
Honestly.
Just a couple genomes. So, like, we're really the same, guys. Don't look at people and think you're better or worse than they are. We're all human beings. All right? So, Kanye West, I want to get into some culture and entertainment. Bruh, I think it's about time.
Jesus.
Let's start off by saying, Kanye, we can't even be the devil's advocate for you anymore. Because you have literally made it impossible
to make excuses and
to
be on your side.
You can't.
It's like, maybe, is this the game he's playing, or does he even know what the game he's playing? He's just
this is a game.
He's making it up as he goes along. That's what it really looks like. He's just saying the most extreme, most outlandish things.
You ever hear someone say, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes?
Yeah.
You ever hear someone say that? I don't know what game he's playing or what he wants to win from this, but let me tell you, Antoine, I just want to cover this real quick.
All right, go ahead.
He made some recent comments on about 4 weeks ago we covered Alex Jones. He's a big alt-right show host of a show called InfoWars. He's also the guy who is owed to pay $1.5 billion to the families of the Sandy Hook um, shooting
For saying it
that
was a
happened.
hoax.
Saying it's a hoax, exactly. And he made a lot of money from like getting fans together during his time of like that was his main like claim to fame, was just like
And
like being a pundit during that whole ordeal. And he had like I think over like $300 million in sales.
it's insane.
Just from
considering the fact that you never understand. Well, no, I'm not gonna say you never understand, but it's crazy how much power and influence somebody could have for the people that aren't aware, informed, and have a mind of their own, or at least the resources to grow that. And it's crazy how much you can influence them. Sir, the people he was influencing, the people, his followers and whatnot, would harass the victims' families with like messages and a whole bunch of just violent. Their child was murdered by a psychotic mass murderer. Like,
in elementary school.
A gunman.
The one place you think a kid is safe.
The one place you think a kid is safe.
And he basically told him it didn't happen. Made a big fame under his
big deal out of it.
Big deal. Got a lot of fame from just saying these crazy things. Of course, like who the hell was saying it didn't happen? That guy. Who's that? And he had a couple people who, for some reason, bought into his general alt-right ideologies, and he finally was sued in the class action lawsuit by the victims' families. So this is the guy who Kanye West went to be interviewed by. Apparently his show is still going with a viewership. Anyway, and Kanye went on there talking about some. I'm not going to repeat anything what he said, but he said some stupid stuff. Anyway, Kanye West is no longer purchasing the Parler app, which is a very popular alt-right platform. I'm not even sure what he wanted to do with that. Many of his financial accounts have been disrupted, and that presidential run that he's been touting about does seem very bleak. I'm not sure who's going to vote for him.
Especially amid his. You say you don't want to get into it.
Not too deep.
All right, but his comments on Hitler and Jewish people.
But I think he's just up there saying the stupidest thing that comes to his mind. Like I think when he's up there, he just say, you know what? If I say this, people are gonna clip it and hear about what I said, and I think just he might have the perception that any attention is good attention or any press is good press, but that's not true. I think this is good for you, Kanye. What the hell are you out there doing? It makes it hard for anyone to.
It's crazy.
We're at this point kind of denouncing it.
I used to be like, damn, I got the same birthday as Kanye. But now I'm like, damn, I got the same birthday as Kanye.
Whoa. He might get canceled. It's like, nah.
But then when you talk about Gemini's forever now.
Shit. Anyway, let's move on to something a bit more sensible. Elon Musk Neuralink is 6 months from its first human recipients. The implants are planned for around 6 months. Is when Elon Musk wants to get it all started off in terms of getting some initial testing done. And I did some research on Neuralink. I think it's pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Like, I think having a wireless transmitter in my brain that can be triggered to send certain signals based upon like certain cortexes of my brain having certain electrical activity. Like if I'm thinking a lot with this part of my brain, that part of my brain's associated with some movement. Let's say I think about moving my arm, right? It'll literally say like there's an app. So the way the whole thing works, they have an app for you to like tie into your Neuralink. There's a surgery that they'll do where you can like put yourself on the waiting list as well. I subscribe to the newsletter. I didn't put myself on the waiting list. I'm not crazy, but I just want to know what they're going to say, what's going to happen with it, and everything. But like, they're going to put the implant in your head. You can charge it up overnight using inductive charge, like putting your phone on.
Oh damn! I forgot to charge my Neuralink.
He's dead ass, bro. He said you can charge it. You can charge it up using an inductive charger.
That sounds funny. I never thought I would have to plug myself in.
No cap, but they said like they're gonna have like very fine receptors, basically just wires that will be tied into, let's say, a grounding point, and if a certain voltage spike is detected in one of the ends of those wires, then they'll know that the part of the brain that wire was inserted in is having activity. And let's say they put one of those wires in a part of your brain that triggers every time you lift your arm, right? Then you can have control now. Every time I lift my arm, I know I'm firing that receptor. Now that receptor correlated with your left arm or your right arm is now going to be in the app. So you can now go in the Neuralink app and say, like, just to like calibrate it, it'll say move your right arm, and then if it gets a signal, it'll say check. Move your left arm, check.
So you can control your body from
reverse. It's not to the point where
control that.
It's not to the point where the Neuralink chip will generate a voltage enough to then fire neurons in the part of your brain to then move your arm. It's the other way around. Where like you move your arm, that voltage spike through
it's recorded.
The electrical potential in that part of those neurons around your brain pushing the current forward. That's detected. That spike in voltage.
That's recorded on the app.
Yes.
Detected and recorded.
Detected and recorded on the app. And then that now can be used to trigger things. So now if I'm leaving my house and I want to close my garage, and I set up my Neuralink to my garage door opener and closer, and my Neuralink, I set up a function that says every time I'm leaving my house, if I go like this, and you see my shoulder if you see my shoulder, my tricep, and you see that if you see a pattern of boom, bing, 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 close the garage. So like, you know what I mean? You could create like different patterns. It's hard, right?
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
There's this show on Amazon Prime called Peripheral. It's a very complex show, but pretty much, I don't even want to say pretty much. It's like a lot you gotta explain. But the show is encompassed around virtual reality, futuristic time travel and stuff like that, and a lot of headsets and like simulations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a very cool show. You guys should watch it. Pretty much, there's this girl. I honestly don't remember her name. There's this girl, right? So the main character, she in the current world she lives in, it's a little bit further in the future. I think it's like 2029. It's not that far. It's crazy. But pretty much they have this they have these different headsets where they put the headset on. It's like any type of VR headset, right? And now they're immersed into a virtual reality. Her brother used to be in the military. Him and his friends are very good at that type of stuff. They put a bunch of biotech in their arms, so they could do a lot of things, like you said, control things from just like squeezing their arms, a whole bunch of stuff.
It's very logical. Like, it's not far fetched at all.
It's not. So in the show though, so the girl works at like a 3D printing office or something like that. She's like the manager. They received a package one day, and it's this headset, but it was directed towards her. This headset, what you find out later, is that it came from the future, right? So she goes home and she puts the headset on, and then the world that she's transferred to is actually, what you find out is it's a real world. But it's set in the future.
Yeah.
And then she goes through like multiple journeys, and then pretty much the people from the future ask for her help because they know she's like, she's pretty much a master at this whole simulation world, fighting a whole bunch of other stuff.
What's the show called?
Peripheral.
Peripheral.
It's like, like
peripheral vision.
Yeah, or like a keyboard or a mouse would be like peripheral to the computer, stuff like that. So it's Peripheral. I could be wrong, but it's somewhat of that. If you type it in,
Peripheral.
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 Is it peripheral? Peripheral or peripheral?
It's peripheral.
Peripheral.
It's not peripheral.
Then it's peripheral. Then it's Peripheral. Yeah. Peripheral. But it's a very good show. I brought that up because it sounds like what they do, what they're trying to do. They're trying to at least get us to that level. I'm not saying of the same extent. But it's crazy. What you find out in the future too, like the same hand gestures that the girl and her brother and his military friends would do to like do certain things, they obviously increase that by a lot in this future world. So if he does like this, like this, right? To turn down the music, or there's certain hand gestures and finger gestures and stuff like that he can use to create this simile. He can use to pretty much change his perception or someone else's perception in the physical world, and it's crazy. And that's at least what I've seen so far related to what they're trying to do. This whole Neuralink thing. And as cool as it sounds, I wouldn't put myself on the hook with either. But as cool, it sounds amazing.
Yeah,
it sounds fun. It's tempting. I know.
I'm not gonna lie to you. If I could like, bro,
I love to see.
I'm gonna tell you right now, Lenderblock Corporation is gonna grow immensely, and we're wrapping up the pod anyway. So I want to start getting into my spiel of marketing material anyway. But the thing is, Lenderblock's gonna grow a lot in the future. And there's no telling whether or not we get into physical devices and hardware. I find this stuff very interesting. So just let that kind of sit in your brains, right?
Yeah.
This is I like this kind of stuff because it doesn't have to be necessarily implanted in my brain. What if I just put a little piece of hardware in my arm, like Anton was saying from the show? I just put a little thing in my hand and just be able to control things with my fingers.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather that than put it directly in my brain. Maybe give me a brain surgery just for a piece of hardware. But
there are people who like there are other shows based off that type of stuff too, and there are people in the real world who build that type of stuff and would put it in their body. I think
you see on Instagram.
It's a while ago though. I seen somebody do something. I don't remember what he did though, but he pretty much put this device in his hand to where he could control like I think it was like
robot fingers, like fingers.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, it's built for people who've been like gotten their hands cut off or something like that, right?
No, then you're thinking about something. I'll have to do further research on it. Maybe next time when we do another podcast, I can further explain on it. It could be something out there further.
Yeah.
But pretty much, I think he put something in his hand and he was able to like control like maybe like a little robot he created.
Oh
yeah. But it's cool. It's a very interesting thing when you get into IoT and
no, it definitely is.
Internet of Things, IoT, neural processing.
You should be able to, if you have one of these chips connected to the internet, right, and you could have an interface. Let's say it's a brain interface rather than a graphical user interface. If you have a brain interface, why can't you think a thought and have it be Googled? Why can't you type in a web address without having to use your fingers, right?
That's dangerous.
It's dangerous, bro. The only scary part is anytime you make a connection, like
if you connect to
physics,
as soon as you connect to the internet, it's not private.
It's not private
at all.
The thing is, in physics, usually processes are reversible. So I'm not talking about chemistry. We have irreversible processes. Most processes in physics are reversible, which means that if you can speak to the internet, there's no reason why the internet can't speak back to your brain. And that's the scary part to me, is how do we control the sending of signals into our brain? It could be fixed with just putting a diode involved, right? A diode's going to force electricity to flow one way. So I can make sure that no signals are going into my brain. I'm only sending signals out. Maybe the signals that flow into my brain are only a certain type of signal that lets my brain know that the action has been completed. I don't know, but I think just putting a diode in every current carrying conduit that's involved is very good, just to make sure that, like, if my Neuralink is hacked, someone isn't actually spiking voltages in my Neuralink, which are then affecting. Think about this, right?
But nothing is fully secure.
Nothing is fully secure.
It's gonna definitely get hacked.
Yeah, it's scary as hell, bro.
And now they have access to you.
It's scary as hell. Guys, Lenderblock Podcast, once again, is sponsored by Lenderblock Corporation. Lenderblock Corporation is a software development firm. We exist to provide equitable credit access, FICO-FREE for all people. We do this via two main applications, the Blender platform and the Partner platform. The Blender platform allows members to create credit lines, choosing their own interest rate and minimum monthly payment, and putting these credit lines out on a platform where members who are acting as lenders can choose them and choose to lend to them if they want. Also, the lenders are always protected 100% for their principal invested because the credit limit of every credit line is equal to the amount of collateral that's been put down on behalf of that credit line. We put down collateral on behalf of all our borrowers 4 times a year, every season, and we also allow members to put down collateral on their own behalf to increase their own credit limits, almost like a secured card concept, secured credit card concept. Also, we give out free collateral to those who go through our verified registry process, which is a form that you can access within your Blender platform app. It's in your settings tab, and going into that tab, you can see becoming Blender verified. You can submit your verified registry form, which is going to just give us extra information, which allows us to hold you accountable if you run off with funds as a borrower, because we're giving you collateral. Let's say this is the scenario. This is why we have to do the verified registry. We put down $100 in your account as collateral. You withdraw $100, which other members on the platform have lent you. You never come back to the Blender platform, right? Now we distribute that collateral to the lenders because they're not going to be at fault for the delinquent borrower. But the borrower, because we gave you that collateral, we're going to have to hold you accountable as a borrower and say, just like anything, nothing's free of accountability. We're going to have to come to you and say, hey, we gave you $100 of collateral. We distributed that out to the lenders who gave you the funds. But now we have to recuperate those losses from you because now we've taken the loss. That's our responsibility. That's our way of taking responsibility for everyone on the platform. So you'll never lose your principles, as well as allowing people to have access to credit who are typically borrowed from it. So we're solving a problem here. It's just, of course, you have to have your checks and balances, which is what we have. The Blender platform has been out since March of 2020. We currently have around 2,500 individually or uniquely owned accounts across the Blender platform and its sibling, the Partner platform. The Partner platform, which shares a username and login database with the Blender platform. So you can sign in with one if you have an account on the other and vice versa. But the Partner platform allows members to create what we call partnerships, which are interest-free rotational fund saving groups where people can contribute rotationally or cyclically to a pool, a fixed amount to a pool, and each member in that pool has a rotational turn to withdraw the sum of that pool. So let's say we have 10 people, I create the partnership, and I have the first turn to withdraw because I invited all the members of the partnership, and I also created it. And for the first turn, I say, okay, everyone do your contributions. They contribute, let's say, not 10 people, I'll contribute $100, so there's 900 in that pool, excluding myself because it's my turn. I'm not going to withdraw. I'm not going to deposit for myself. I withdraw their contributions, and now next month when I contribute again, because it's another person's turn, I'll give 100 this time. And for the next 9 months after my initial withdrawal turn, I'll be giving $100. The cool thing is, at the end of the whole thing, at the end of one period, at the end of one cycle, everyone's contributed and withdrawn $900. So that's the whole principle. You can go around as many times as you want and have everyone contribute and withdraw $1,800 or $2,700. It'll just keep going. But every time you go through a full revolution, everyone's at net zero. So it's a fun saving platform. It's about collectively saving. The benefit really comes out when you have a lot of people in a group. So that way, the amount that you're able to withdraw when it's your turn is a lot more. And it's also very advantageous because the manager has the unique ability to reassign turns. So if I have an unforeseen expense come up in 2 weeks, and I'm saying, yo, I need my withdrawal in 2 weeks because my child's school fees he needs to go on a trip or something like that. And I didn't foresee this coming. So now the manager can go, there's a group chat inside of every partnership. You can kind of have these discussions, but the manager has the ability to say, okay, person B, you had a turn in 2 weeks. Are you okay with person A swapping turns with you? And that manager has the explicit privileges to swap those 2 turns. So as a manager, you're inviting the members, you're making sure everyone's happy and well, but you're also able to make sure people can get their payout if an unforeseen expense or emergency comes up. So that's kind of the Partner platform there in a nutshell. Blender platform, Partner platform. We have APPAREL as well on our website, www.lenderblock.io/store. Really cool shirts. I don't know if y'all see the back of my shirt yet, but you see the QR code on the back of my shirt.
So I can come over. Yeah.
So you see the QR code. This is our signature here. QR codes. We also have a whole new line, and I'm not even wearing a new line right now. Shame on me. Hoodie's over there though. My hoodie is over there. It's heavy quality. I don't even know if you've seen the hoodie yet, Antoine. But
I didn't. You see me wearing the polo?
The polo's clean, bro.
Polo's nice.
Polo's clean. When you see the hoodie, heavy, thick hoodie, good quality. People have been saying this is higher quality than Nike Tech. So you can see it's a good heavy hoodie. I can wear this hoodie pretty much by itself,
During the winter.
and I don't need anything else to have on. I can just wear a t-shirt and this hoodie, and I'm pretty much good as long as it's above 40 degrees. So on the back, we have the Lenderblock. This is the Lenderblock line, and the text on the back says, the Lenderblock Apparel, social lending and borrowing, powered by blockchain, built to provide equitable credit access, powered by Lenderblock Corporation, right? So that's what we're all about. Everything we're doing is to accentuate our true business model. And you see our signature logo right here on everything for the London Platform Apparel. We have not come out with a partner platform apparel line yet. That's coming. We want to grow the partner platform a bit more on its own for a little bit. But you guys can definitely tap into this stuff right here. And I want you guys to support that line because our chief merchandising officer worked very hard to design it. It's beautiful clothing, very high quality, and you're buying these items helps support us a lot.
You would help in the advertising, the marketing, and that.
You're
and
really
spreading the news.
seriously. Everyone who's able to see this video, make sure you tell everyone you know who may be interested to tap in. We're live on Twitch every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. This is our first time also streaming live to YouTube simultaneously, so that's very cool. Concurrent streaming on both. So whatever you're watching us on, yeah, let's clap it up for that. That's really cool. We got everyone who's in the comments. KA Chambers 96, we appreciate you. MRO Lewis CPA, I remember that name too. We appreciate you. We appreciate you guys for tapping in and just being a part. And catch up with us next week. Don't miss us. And y'all, if y'all like Antoine, you can be here every weekend too. We have a lot of hosts, you know. So everyone's coming in, being involved, bro. Antoine's very knowledgeable, very intelligent guy. So I think he'll be on a lot more too.
I appreciate that.
So
I think
definitely, bro. No, it's real. Yeah, for real.
You're doing amazing things out here.
For real, bro. We're for electrical engineers who went to Morgan State University. These are the types of things
The
we want to
illustrious
always
Morgan
do.
State University.
The illustrious Morgan State University.
Remember that, national
Yes,
treasure.
sir. National treasure.
HBCU.
Yeah. Thank you, Donald
Baltimore,
Trump.
Maryland.
You're right. Thank you, Donald Trump. He is the one who made us national treasure. I'm just saying. Yo, guys, tap in with us every weekend. Tap in. Do not miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram as well. Follow us everywhere. Lenderblock Corp is pretty much our ubiquitous name. So follow us everywhere. Stay tapped in. And we'll see y'all next week.